Hi, I'm Teresa.
And I'm Yolanda. We are both Master of Engineering student majoring in Computer Engineering.
And I'm Katrina. I'm a science teacher and a Master's of Education student at Boise. And we're GraphMaster. GraphMaster is an educational app that teaches middle and high school students how to line graph. Why? Because it's a hard thing to teach, and it's a really difficult thing for students to learn. Kids really struggle with the fact that graphing is multi-step, requires all sorts of different skills and computations to make one single graph. On top of that, in a class of 25 kids, they have varying abilities. Some will know what they're doing, some will have no idea, and you have to meet all of their individual needs. And finally, kids often have no idea that they have no idea what they're doing until 3 days after they've created a graph and they get their quiz back. So learning really doesn't get a lot of feedback during the graphing process. So GraphMaster aims to overcome these challenges in a traditional classroom by allowing kids to work at a pace that's appropriate for them, as well as a level that's appropriate based on their prior knowledge. And it provides feedback throughout the learning process instantaneously. So kids are able to learn as they're graphing.
So we have 5 main building blocks: the user interface and the database that communicates with all our other functionality. Then we have the 2D touch graphing capability. In this, we created our own plot on the graph capability, which required us to go a level deeper into creating our own touch on the graph capability, which otherwise wasn't available. Then we have the student assessment function, in which the system will provide feedback based on the student's answer. And lastly, we have the student progression system, in which the system will measure what level a student should be at and what level the student should go next.
Okay, so we're in class, and Yolanda has just received a lesson from her teacher about line graphing. She's going to open up the app to do some practice, and I'm going to be the little voice in the back of the classroom.
Okay, so now my teacher just asked me to do some practice on GraphMaster, and I open this app and things I've learned some graphing before, so I'll just start in level 3. Okay, so the first question reads, scientists wonder if the level of water in a local lake impact how many elephants visit it to drink. And then I see that I need to write my title below the x-axis, so I click somewhere below it and type in my title and hit submit.
So titles are actually a really tricky thing because there's no one correct title to a graph. And so here we're going to ask students to self-assess their learning. Yolanda's going to mark herself based on an exemplar and think about how she's doing.
Okay, so let's check my work against the correct answer. Yeah, I think I'm doing well, so let's just move on, click next. And before that, I need to rank how I did. Yeah, I'm okay, so I'll rank myself 2-star, and maybe I need to do more practice. So what's the next question? Okay, so I need to put all the interval values for both axes.
So Yolanda would have calculated this step earlier. For time's sake, we had to cut out calculating the intervals. But she would have received an interval of 3 for the x-axis and an interval of 1 for the y. Now, there's more than one possible interval in many, many graphs. And so GraphMaster is designed to allow students to choose what's appropriate for them.
Okay, so now I'm just putting the interval value for x-axis, which should be 3. So I click on the first point and type in 3, submit. Yeah, that's correct. And then I type in 4 for the second point, submit. Oops, GraphMaster tells me that's incorrect. So I need to do it again and type in 6, submit. Yeah, that's correct. So then I'll move to y-axis and the interval value should be 1. So I type in 1 for the first point and 2 for the second point. So after that, I need to put all the points on the graph. So I need to check the table, and it says that the first point is 6, 4. So 6, 4 should be somewhere like this. So I click on a graph, somewhere it should be. And then that's it, done. And then I can see my point in green on the graph, so I know it's correct. The next point is 10, 6, so I click again at that range And this time I need to move the scroll bar to move the x-axis value over to 10.
So let's say Yolanda gets stuck. She has no idea what she's doing for this step. There's a couple of things she can do. Up in the top right corner, there's a video, text, and graphical lesson that she can follow if she needs some help. In addition, GraphMaster will also teach students how to find the independent and dependent variable. It will teach them how to label their axes, and it will teach them how to calculate their axes intervals using a built-in calculator.
So another feature of the app is that the app will move the student through the level of difficulty based on their performance. For example, in our demo, we have seen that if Yolanda has done a level really well with no mistake, then she moves up 2 levels. Suppose she has done terribly with lots of mistakes, then she moves down 1 level. Let's say that she has occasionally made some mistake with 80 to 100% correct, then she moves up 1 level. Otherwise, she stays in the same level to get more practice. Let's say that after she went through the lesson, she's still finding it really difficult to learn how to graph. In such cases, she can go through our video library in which all the steps are listed, and she can concentrate on those areas where she needs more help.
So what did we learn doing this? We learned a lot about teamwork, about building a group morale, and being able to communicate effectively with each other, because we often found we were talking at cross purposes.
Well, as programmers, we also learned that how hard it is to teach something that was really easy for us, just like graphing, and to break it down into small parts for someone who learns nothing about it. And we also learned that ideas are always fluid and change, and we definitely overplan at the beginning.
So that leads us to our future work, in which we plan to have a teacher server in which the teacher can see the students' progress, student-to-student communication so that students can learn together, and also to extend our app not only to Android but also to Apple. And of course, the last one is the bar graphing and pie graphing capabilities.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great work. I have the sense that you only described a small amount of what you actually can teach with this app. Is that correct?
Yes.
We talked about all the steps, but because graphing requires so many steps, we really just kind of went, these are the steps that we can do. I mean, we can do independent and dependent, but the key feature of the graph, or of the app, is that students can actually plot in the graph and create a graph in the app itself.
And just very roughly, what gets harder as you go up?
What gets harder?
As you go up the levels?
As you go up the levels. Things like the length of the question itself, the types of titles, what difficulty of intervals they're using, how hard it is to plot the individual points. For a grade 6 student, plotting 3,4 is very different than plotting 3.7, 4.3. And so it just becomes progressively more challenging as they move along.
Do you think this app is ready to deploy? How often does it crash?
Yeah.
We still have
It doesn't crash, but I think in terms of the functionality, we want to go further with it.
That's an awful lot.
So you said that students, you can use multiple interval values and there's different ways to kind of make a graph, but then when you put in an interval value, it said you're wrong, right? So in what cases is it going to tell you that's close enough, so we'll let it go, and when's it going to say that you're just wrong?
Oh, she wasn't actually wrong in the interval value that she chose. So if she chose the interval 3 instead of 3.5, right, she put in 3 and then 4, when it should have been 3 and then 6 and then 9. So her error was in how she was labeling this.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't in the interval itself.
I thought that was on the y-axis.
Any other questions, comments? Great.